All right, what's going on, everyone? So pretty significant events just played out in Mali over the last couple days. A coordinated attack carried out by two different groups, one of them, Al-Qaeda affiliated, appears to have killed the defense minister and sent the president into hiding. He hasn't been heard from or seen now in a couple days. Now, this is a developing situation, so diving into what we know so far, over the weekend, April 25th, 26th, and into today, the 27th, Mali was rocked by a series of coordinated attacks across the country. It appears to be an alliance, a new alliance, between Al-Qaeda, or the Al-Qaeda affiliate in the region, JNIM, we'll get to more about them in a second, and then Tuareg separatists. We have spoken about these Tuareg groups in the past. A few years ago, they were the ones that carried out a significant ambush against the Wagner group in the deserts of Mali. Now, as of right now, we know the defense minister has been killed. It looks like these separatist groups have seized the northern city of Kidal. My apologies in the pronunciation. Throughout this video, it's going to be pretty bad, and it does look like they're continuing to press towards the Mali capital of Bamako. Now, the leader of the Mali government right now, General Assimi Goïta, has not yet been seen publicly since the attacks began, and by all measures, it looks like the Mali government, along with the Russian Africa Corps, is on their back foot. So starting out with who is fighting who, to give you a little idea here. One side, of course, we have the Mali government. We've got the general here, Assimi Goïta, and it's backed by the Russian Africa Corps, which is just great naming by Russia here. But essentially, this is a successor to the Wagner group. So they kind of formalized it, pulled it a bit from what was this, quote, paramilitary organization and not a part of the Russian state. Wink, wink. It became very much a part of the Russian military. So the Russian African Corps is the group that took over kind of the paramilitary responsibilities in Africa. A lot of protection of Russian interests there, and then just goes down a rabbit hole in terms of the crimes and the corruption and the extortion and all of that stuff. But that's the Russian Africa Corps backing the Mali government. The other side of this, you have JNIM, which is an Al-Qaeda affiliate, now considered to be the most heavily armed jihadi organization in West Africa. So, never like an Al-Qaeda affiliate. That's a problem start to finish. And then you have FLA, which is a Tuareg-led, that stands for the Azawad Liberation Front, a Tuareg-led separatist coalition that wants autonomy or independence for the northern region of the country known as Azawad. Now, real quick, we've got a couple different specialists that we're talking with right now to pull into the channel to do an interview in the coming days to better break this down. So this is going to be at a very high level to get you up to speed with where things stand today. Now, I'm going to go over to a map view. We're going to be using, this is Live UA map. It's the best we got right now. I think this is actually pretty useful as we zoom into, so Mali in West Africa here, right in the middle of the screen. We've got the outline here. Yeah, all of Mali now is on the screen. So in terms of what we know, just before dawn on Saturday, April 25th, two large explosions and sustained gunfire erupted near the Kati military base outside Bamako. So that is on the west side here of the country. As we zoom in, you'll see the military base just to the north of the capital right here. So this is where the initial fighting took place on the 25th. They say the most consequential blow came at Kati, where a suicide car bomber drove into the residence of Defense Minister General Saido Kamara, killing him along with his second wife and two grandchildren. Kamara was widely regarded as a possible successor to the current president and leader, Goïta. They say by Sunday, Tuareg fighters of the Azawad Liberation Front said they held full control of Kidal and parts of Gao. So we're seeing an expansion of the fighting, and you can see just with the icons here where the different attacks had taken place over the course of the last few days. So all the way up here in the northeastern portion of the country down to the southwest. So when they say coordinated attack across the country, this is what they're talking about. It wasn't just a car bombing. It was multiple attacks carried out against multiple facilities simultaneously. Let's see. The FLA also said, FLA said they held control of Kidal and parts of Gao up here in the north. And then JNIM, which stands for Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal Muslimin, claimed strikes around Bamako, Kati, Mopi, and Savare. Again, I am butchering the pronunciations. I am certain of it. Now, as of today, government forces say that they are fighting alongside the Russian-linked African Corps, say that they still hold Kati and Bamako, so the areas down here around the capital. But it sounds like Gao, Mopti, and Savar were contested. So it appears to be more government control in the south, less government control as they move up to the northeast. Now, a little more insight here coming from the New York Times. And you know what? We're going to play some footage. A lot of clips coming out of this in the last couple days. Hard to tell exactly what it is we're looking at, but A lot coming out from the Russian African Corps showing their fighting back against JNIM as well as the FLA. Not a lot from the other side, although we do have some pictures and videos showing that clearly some of these groups have taken over Russian military bases and outposts manned by the Russian African Corps. Now, the New York Times reported that the African Corps forces have reached a deal with the Azawad Liberation Front, allowing them to leave Kidal. In its statement, JNIM offered not to target the Russians and to, quote, build a balanced and effective future relationship if they withdrew from the Mali conflict. So the terms here being laid out by this, to be clear, al-Qaeda affiliate, is you leave our country and maybe we'll be on good terms with Russia going forward. In an interview with a state broadcaster on Sunday, the military's chief of staff, Major General Omar Diarra, said more than 200 terrorists had been killed during the latest counteroffensive. He said they were trying to disguise themselves, the terrorists, by dressing in military uniforms. He said search and sweep operations are continuing in practically all areas, and we are searching for them, pursuing them, and destroying them wherever they are found. Now, we've got some conflicting reports there from the Russian side and from the Mali side in terms of casualties, in terms of success rates. But I do want to get into word for word what we're hearing about this from the Russian side. But first, a quick thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Ground News. So while everyone's been focused on the Middle East and Strait of Hormuz, understandably so, something else just happened that barely made a splash. Satellite images show China deploying warships and a floating barrier to block the Scarborough Shoal, a key fishing area within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, stoking tensions that analysts warn could escalate into armed conflict. Now, this story actually came from Ground News, which is sponsoring today's video. It's an app that aggregates thousands of news stories daily, organizing them by topic while showing each story's political bias, reliability, and ownership. Now, this story has been covered by over 35 different outlets, mostly from the right and the center, with a notable share of Asian and non-Western media and about 15% independent sources. And depending on where you look, the perspectives can be pretty different. For example, Time frames Trump's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz as setting a precedent that China could use around Taiwan, while the right-leaning Foundation for Defensive Democracies focuses on China's expanding control in the South China Sea. Same story, completely different framing, which is why I like Ground News. Now, one feature that I've really been enjoying is Blind Spot. It shows you stories covered mostly or entirely by one side of the political spectrum. So no matter where you sit politically, you're getting a filtered version of reality, and Ground News helps you see what you're missing. So go to ground.news/Preston or scan the QR code on the screen for 40% off the Unlimited Access Vantage plan, which is the same one that I use. Subscribe to Ground News today at ground.news/Preston. And thank you again to Ground News for sponsoring today's video. Now, the Russian Africa Corps has a Twitter account. It has a Telegram channel. They put out all their official information there. I'll link both of those in the description below if you want to check them out. Nonetheless, they issued their statement of kind of what happened here in the last couple days. They said around 5:30 on April 25th, terrorist groups Azawad Liberation Front and Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb prepared. They say they were prepared by Western special services with large forces estimated at around 10 to 12,000 people, attempted a coup in Mali. That is hands down the largest number we're seeing from any report. Even other Russian sources, and we'll get to that here in a second, don't come anywhere near 12,000 strong. They say attempts were made to seize key facilities in the capital, primarily the presidential palace. In addition, major cities of the country were attacked with the aim of capturing city administration buildings. In the areas of the cities of Kidal and Gao, Ukrainian and European mercenaries in Africa who used Western-made man-pads such as Stinger participated in the attacks on state facilities and government facilities. There's no indication that I've seen at this point, no evidence other than just these statements that Ukrainian elements are on the ground, that European elements are on the ground, that U.S. elements are on the ground, nothing of the sort, right? There was some speculation back in, I think it was July of 24, when the Azawads carried out and the Tuaregs carried out a significant ambush against the Wagner Group, that there may have been some Ukrainian coaching in how to use those drones. And I wouldn't write that off entirely, because when we see these clips of FPVs flying into Russian positions, those are well-trained pilots. They know what they're doing. Contrast that with what we're seeing out of Hezbollah right now, going after the IDF in southern Lebanon. Those pilots are still learning. It's very, they're making kind of entry-level mistakes. You can tell that they haven't gone after a lot of vehicles on the battlefield, helicopters, or even troops out in the open. These drone strikes against the Russian Africa Corps, those are experienced pilots. They're not perfect, but you can just kind of tell based off of the tactics that they've been practicing this for some time. And I do want to mention that a number of Russian outlets, I got to kind of sift through this to see what the Russian response is. And over on Russia Today, they're kind of the leading story is that this is a Western uprising designed to push Russia out of Africa. Again, no evidence of that outside of what Russian media is just printing. The African Corps here said, thanks to the courage and heroism of the soldiers of the African Corps and the Russian armed forces, the Syrian scenario was prevented. The African Corps held all positions and airfields, repelled terrorist attacks, and provided support to allies in the city of Katy. The losses of the militants amounted to more than 1,000 terrorists. So just as a quick comparison, you've got the chief of staff of the Mali military saying 200, the Russians coming out with a figure of more than 1,000. They say the effective actions of the soldiers side by side with the Malian army repelled a large-scale attack on a combat line stretching over 2,000 kilometers, halted a carefully prepared attempt by Western special services to forcibly overthrow the government and demonstrate Russia's inability following Syria. At present, they say the situation in Mali remains difficult. Unfortunately, there are wounded among the soldiers of the Africa Corps. They are provided with all necessary assistance and are being evacuated. The personnel are ready and continue to carry out the tasks. We have no additional details on Russian casualties. I've seen no numbers. The closest I've come on anything there is there are wounded, as being reported by the Africa Corps. The other Russian assessment that I have here, a bit shorter, is coming from Rybar, which actually contradicts some of the African Corps reporting, where they say over 100 militants participated in the assault with UAV support. So we're down from 12,000 to over 100, to be clear. They say reports indicate that some attackers used Malian army uniforms for infiltration. At this moment, the attack has been repelled. The minister is alive. Government forces are conducting a counteroffensive, pursuing scattered groups of Islamists in the suburbs with support from the local population. Mali is not Syria. A collapse of defenses on a nationwide scale was avoided, at least this time. Probably a little premature. There's no evidence that this has completely stopped, and if nothing else, shows kind of the fragility of the Malian government and shows the fragility of the weaknesses in the Russian African Corps and their ability to they can stop these attacks once they start playing out to a degree, right? They still killed the defense minister, which is a significant blow, still carried out coordinated attacks across the country. The ability of JNIM and the FLA to do that does show a degree of weakness inside of the Russian control and security in Mali. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes in the next couple days. Again, no indication that the fighting has stopped, but we are working right now to get a couple different kind of Sahel experts and terrorism experts on the channel this week to help us dive into this a little bit further and understand it as it continues to play out. But that's all we got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.